Hi team, welcome to Cloud Pandit in this Microsoft Fabric Master Program. So in today's session, we will be talking about difference between Azure Synapse versus Microsoft Fabric. So many people are having same doubts why we need Microsoft Fabric when we have Azure Synapse, which is a one-stop shop, right? So where we can do everything. So what are the other capabilities that Microsoft Fabric is bringing for us? Let's quickly discuss. So to understand that, let's quickly go through the Synapse capabilities. So Synapse is a platform as a service, meaning I have developed my code to execute my code, to process my data, how much compute power is required, how many computers is required also, I need to decide it. So based on amount of data, so there is somebody is required to set up the compute power, right? Nobody is there. So we need to set up as per amount of data, we need to decide how many computers is required. So if you are taking care of development of the code and how much compute is required to execute this code, that is called a platform as a service, both you are managing. Let's say I'm just developing my code, but how much computers or how many computers I need, how much compute is required to execute this code. If somebody is taking care of this compute power, that is called a software as a service. The best example is platform as a service. Best example, Synapse is a platform as a service, ADF is a platform as a service, Databricks is a platform as a service. So SaaS services, for example, if you see Microsoft Fabric is a SaaS service. If you look at Azure Functions is a SaaS services. SaaS means completely the required compute power will be taken care by the Microsoft. Our job is just to develop the code and submit on the uh, clusters. So clusters will enable how much compute is required from the backend. So for example, Gmail. So when you are using a Gmail, you will just send a mail, but you don't worry about where our mail is storing, how much compute they are using underlying to send this particular mail, right? So that is a one more best example for the SaaS services. Remember, Synapse is a platform as a service, and Microsoft Fabric is a SaaS service where Microsoft will own most of the management or responsibility of managing compute infrastructure. In Synapse, we will be taking care of all the compute related stuff as well. So if you see this, the Synapse capabilities or Synapse as the data warehouse, that is called a dedicated SQL pool, right? So Synapse offers a dedicated SQL pool for relational storage where you can able to transform your data by using the SQL. But in the Microsoft Fabric, we don't have a relational storage separately. For everything, we have a only one storage called a one lake. I'll be showing that in a bit. Next, so Synapse offers a serverless SQL pool that allows users to pay per query. So this is similar to SaaS example. One more example for the software as a service is SQL serverless, right? Built in, like a serverless SQL pool. What it does is you submit your query, it will just execute and give you the result. But you don't know how much compute it is using backend. You will be charged for the how much compute it has used to execute that query. For that much compute, you will be charged. But you no need to worry about how much compute they are using backend to execute this. Okay, this is the best example for the software as a service. So these kind of capabilities our Microsoft Fabric is giving. So everything is a software as a service. You no need to worry about the defining the compute. Whenever you need more compute, go and fix it, change it. When you don't require, decrease the compute to save the cost. All these task we no longer need to do. Everything will be managed by the Microsoft. It also offers the Spark pool for processing the big data. If you see notebooks, right? So we use the Spark pool for processing our big data processing. We can able to do with the help of the Spark cluster using these notebooks. Okay. Next, it has been marketed as a one-stop shop for all analytical workloads and unified platform for building end-to-end analytical solution. So this is earlier called as a unified layer where we can do everything, but still, so it is having some disadvantages. The disadvantages, if you see, right? So the like we are using a different storages and we are managing the compute power. We are managing the security. Like differently, right? Spark jobs, different security, pipelines, different security. So security is also controlled differently. Storages are relational storage and your data lake storage will be there here. That also we will connect. We have multiple storages, we have multiple computational powers for processing our big data. But main disadvantage with the Synapse is it is a TaaS service. That is a one disadvantage. Second disadvantage is it has the different types of storages like relational storage. We have data lake storage for maintaining our file systems like files and all, right? So these are the few disadvantages with the Synapse. Now let's move on to the Microsoft Fabric. Let's quickly see what are the capabilities of Fabric. If you see, Fabric capabilities are Fabric has more computational powers than the Synapse. Okay, so if you see, underlying is only one storage called OneLake. On top of it, you have the different computational environments, right? So you can use any of these particular computational tools for processing your big data, and on top of these things, you can able to apply any of these things. Okay, you can just create a data factory pipelines for ingestion, so like a data science for prediction analysis, real-time analytics for fraud reduction and other things. Power BI, where you will be showing the notebooks by taking the result of these particular data transformation result of these data transformation jobs you can use to create those reports. But if you see OneLake, where we are storing our relational database, lake house, CustoDB, data sets, all the data we are storing in a one storage called a OneLake. So OneLake is a cloud storage which is unlimited, where you can able to store all of your data, all types of your data. So one more thing is, this is both are decoupled. Decoupled means we have a compute and storage, right? So coupling means, tightly coupled means, if storage is increased, if compute is increased means storage will increase. If storage is decreased means compute will decrease. That is called tightly coupled. But Fabric is a decoupled between the storage and compute. Storage and compute is decoupled. What it means is, when you are ingesting the data, you need a more storage. So you can just increase the storage system. When you are processing the data, you need more compute. Yes, you can increase the compute. Meaning, if you increase the compute, only compute will be increased, storage will not be increased. If you decrease the storage, only storage will decrease, compute will not decrease. Both are independently handled. That is one more main advantage of our Fabric. So does not have a dedicated SQL pool or relational storage. As you know, it is a single storage called OneLake. Offers a workspace concept for organizing data and analytical workloads. Basically, you can create pipelines, notebooks, everything will be shown under a workspace, all your reports, everything. Okay. It follows a new storage architecture that decouples storage and computation further than Synapse SQL pool. So in Synapse SQL pool, as you know, you have a storage and compute, both are tightly coupled. Whenever you increase the compute, storage also will increase. When you decrease the compute, storage also will decrease. But in the Fabric, it is not like that. Both are independently, you can increase or decrease. And Fabric offers a Synapse data warehouse, which is the first transactional data warehouse to natively support an open data format. Okay, so it is supports the open data format. It's not like our relational storage. It is an open data format. You will come to know more about open data format, how the data will store. When I am doing the labs, you will come to know in detail. Okay, Synapse versus Fabric capabilities. If you see, Synapse is here. Okay, and Power BI is this. But Microsoft Fabric is bringing almost everything that is there in the Synapse and Power BI except the SQL Server and mapping data flow, because this built-in serverless is not required, because Microsoft Fabric itself SaaS. This built-in serverless is for providing the SaaS capabilities within the Synapse, right? So you no need to worry about the compute when you submit the SQL queries on the serverless. It will be charged based on how much time your query is executed, how much data it scanned. But it is really not required for you to uh, decide the number of computers required for processing your data. Everything will be taken care. So but Microsoft Fabric itself SaaS service, so that's why this is not required. That is ruled out. Mapping data flows, we have something called the mapping data flow version 2. We will discuss that. So but it is similar to mapping data flow, but it is upgraded version, a more better performance, everything you will see in the mapping data flow version 2. Okay. So yeah, let's quickly see other things. If you see the Microsoft Fabric capabilities, you can do Synapse real-time analytics to understand recommendation systems to build or to do the fraud detection. One lake, which is a single place where we will store relational data, we store the file system data, everything, right? So even the relational database data also will be stored in the open file format. So what is that? We'll see. Synapse data warehouse, which is all capabilities of our data warehouse will get. Synapse data engineering, we can able to do to understand how you are doing your business. Data factory for ingestion and all. Data science for prediction analysis. So, and within that, you can also create the reports using the Power BI dashboards or reports. So, right. So all these capabilities we have within the Microsoft Fabric. If you see the differences, right? Who can learn the Synapse? Who can learn the Microsoft Fabrics? The target users are, so developers or users with a technical knowledge only can be used by the Synapse. But the Microsoft Fabric, if you see, developers and end users can use it, meaning our business users. Okay, anyone without IT knowledge can start in a minute. UI looks like a Power BI and the Microsoft 365, but it is very, very, very simple to use the Microsoft Fabric. Technical understanding, some knowledge is required for the basic setup in the Synapse, because you need to create the Synapse and you need to create a Spark pools or SQL, dedicated SQL pool. You need to choose the number of computes which is required to process our data, right? But in the Microsoft Fabric, there is no requirement for technical technologies, uh, because Microsoft handles everything on setup. Next, user controls. If you see, data of the application can be managed by the customers. In the Synapse, we are managing the compute power based on how much is required, how much data I have. So based on that, we are managing. But Microsoft Fabric, it is a SaaS service. Everything will be managed by the Microsoft Access things. So you will get the access to Synapse Studio for pipeline creation and runtime access for the deployments by default. Similar to that in Microsoft Fabric, all users will get the access, including the business users also will get access to create pipelines and building all your data transformation things. Scale, admins must change the configuration to scale. Let's say if you need more computers to process your data, admins has to go and increase the compute power. It takes some time to come up. Again, when they don't require, they have to decrease it, admin team. But in Microsoft Fabric, it is scaled up or down the processing power as we need, as per our requirement. So basically, it will automatically scale up and down. It will take care. Security in the Synapse, if you see, we have RBAC, role-based access control, to manage different aspects of the Synapse Studio. Also like row level, column level, object level security is provided within the Synapse. But Microsoft Fabric is hosted on the Microsoft Cloud infrastructure, right? So one security layer manages access across all the Fabric objects. Whether you have the notebooks, you have pipelines, doesn't matter. Everything will be controlled with the help of the one security layer. So we will discuss that. For next, licensing, Synapse Analytics, you can have a 1 to 3 years of reserved instances. Say, if I need this compute for power for 3 years, there will be discounts if you enable that. Okay, so this serverless billing options like 1 to 3 years reserved instances license available for dedicated people. You can just take for 3 years. There will be huge discount. If you take for 1 year, there is a discount. But Microsoft Fabric, we cannot use that kind of way, like for 3 years or 5 years you cannot able to reserve. It will be completely pay as you go option without long term commitment. Reserved instances can save money. On demand scaled up and down features save money. So basically, so whenever you need the compute, automatically compute will increase and compute will be decreased, but these things will be, we are going to make the payment based on the pay as you go only. Okay, there is no like reservation. So reserved instances can save money, but it is completely a pay as you go option only we can do. Okay, so that's all team. Thanks for watching this particular video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach, or if you have any question, I request all of you to put your questions in the comment section. I'll answer that. And I request all of you to subscribe my YouTube channel to get more content on the Microsoft Fabric.